proposals are such a disaster that the WA Libs, who are also uniquely hopeless, almost as bad as the Vic Libs,
no,
they were
not that
ahead
bad, surely.
in the polls. I mean, these Libs do not deserve to be ahead in the polls. There's only like 2 of them left. But they were actually ahead of the polls based on the backlash to Labor and their endorsement of these laws, which they were just a week ago saying should go national.
Well, let's just talk briefly about Victoria, James, and, you know, they're now renaming all their schools with Indigenous names, and there's all sorts of stuff. So what is happening is they got so excited, the left, a bit of...
rush of blood to the head.
Yes, rush of blood to the head, and they got all excited and left... I was looking for the, premature celebration. Very good.
There's a pill for that.
Yes, exactly. Looking for the appropriate one. Rita found it. The point is they got so excited they rushed in all these Indigenous laws, assuming that treaty and voice and all these things would follow place, and now suddenly they go, oh, hang on. Do you reckon Albo got on the phone to Roger Cook and whatever his name is? I
think it's a 100% guarantee that in the Prime Minister's office they were looking at the polls and they said how they know that law gave the opposition an entire week's worth of question time. Every time people talk about this, you know, they know that this is a disaster and that this is logically what follows from the voice. It's been amazing to watch Albanese and his team try and jettison all the baggage from this thing and act like it's all just
the stuff that they're going to bring in if the voice gets up.
Of course it is. Linda Burney this week would not answer simple questions and read. Can I just but just on that though. And it's so clear to me, though, that Albanese called up Cook, the Premier of WA, and said, get this thing off the front pages everywhere now.
I believe that because Cook only, a week ago was wanting these laws to go national.
Yes.
We wanted the federal government to adopt them. So for them to now be scrapped is a fairly dramatic U-turn. But back to Linda Burney, the Minister for Indigenous Australians. I watched Parliament throughout the week intently. And she's either unwilling or incapable of answering questions other than just reading directly from her notes. It just happened time and time again. Every time a question was posed to her, and there weren't gotcha questions, these were very broad questions about the race-based referendum, Makarrata, statements that she's made or the Prime Minister has made. And every single time, it was just a matter of her reading directly from her notes. I don't know, again, what this strategy is, James.
Well, it was bizarre because I was in the press gallery. I was in the House watching this happen. I've never seen a performance like this. This is a person who is supposed to be selling this massively important constitutional change for the government. She would literally come up and read a piece of paper with the most pat motherhood statements about the voice. And I don't know if she's poorly advised or what's happening in her office, but nobody ever, gave her a piece of paper that even said, if asked about a Makarrata commission, which is what good advisors do, read this and get up and sit down. And no, they couldn't even do that.
Well, the point is that, as was the people who did that poll we mentioned, observed, that the reason the Republic referendum in 1999 failed was because the detail. People saw the detail and voted against it. So the bright sparks at Labor and the Greens and the Indigenous activist class decided, OK, let's get the voice through without giving anyone any details. That'll work. That'll be a great trick. And now it's all coming unstuck. They can't answer any details because the devil literally is in the details and people will not vote for it when they know what it's all about.
But I do fear that there's so much that the public isn't seeing. They are seeing a lot of yes campaigning, and the yes campaign doesn't just have the funds and the big corporate support. They've got people on the ground. They've got so much money. They've got people door knocking, going house to house, trying to convince people to vote yes. And that is very effective. When you've got someone face to face telling you some story and you're not that politically engaged, it can be enormously effective. So I think it's important for the No camp not to become complacent. And this woeful performance from Linda Burney, public don't see that. I mean, they might see 10 seconds in the 6 o'clock.
But she's protected by a lot of the press on this too.
She's protected, and people aren't, they've got jobs. They're not sitting at home watching Parliament.
No, and this is the danger, Rita, is that many people will vote yes simply because they think it's a nice thing to do. I spoke to someone the other day who said to me, look, I said, why are you going to vote yes? And she trotted out just platitudes and nonsense that had no detail, something about the environment. I mean, the deliberate level of ignorance, and this is where the Albanese government is so reprehensible. Any government that deliberately starves its people of information in order to make a big constitutional change, well, we've got a name for that, and that's communism. And it's utterly reprehensible that they've denied the details of what could happen under a voice to the population. And the population, many of them, may still blindly vote yes. We still might wake up on the morning after the referendum and find it's a yes simply because so many people are going, oh, I don't know, I don't understand.
Well, I don't think so, Ron. And
I hope not, but I'm just warning against complacency.
I think that complacency is, of course, the enemy of the no camp. But, you know, one of the things that happens with these sorts of things where it's, you know, everybody's supposed to sort of vote yes, you know, eventually if there's a preference cascade and it suddenly becomes acceptable to vote no, then everybody simply says, yeah, nah, going the other way. But the other thing, too, is that, you know, it all comes back to this sort of information ecosystem that the government is trying to manage, where they say only our talking points are the truth and anybody who questions them is a lie. And people are seeing through that, and they're saying, why are you being so tricky? Why won't you talk about this? Why won't you answer questions? Why do you get angry when people quote what Voice supporters like Megan Davis and Greg Craven have said in the past? It doesn't make sense to people.
The best arguments for the no case come from the yes case.
Correct.
So for the no case to win, what they did was quote accurately and in context what the yes campaigners were saying and have been saying for some time.
And didn't they have a meltdown when their own words were thrown back at them? You're on the wrong side of history when you're quoted accurately and in context and you have a tantrum about it.